All right, Fiberista. Hey, welcome to Wednesday YouTube livecast. I'm Stacy Budge Camison with UrbanGypZ, and today I'm going to talk about something. I know if you guys have seen the title, you're thinking, avoid weaving stripes, but I'm here to tell you, freeform weaving sometimes can start to look like stripes because as you're sitting there weaving and you're kind of just picking a yarn randomly and weaving a little bit and then picking another yarn that matches or contrasts with color and texture, and sometimes you end up with stripes. Let me see if I can show you an example. I have all my examples down here. You can see kind of like in this area you start to get stripes. So I mean, and it's not to say that stripes is necessarily a bad thing, but I think in terms of fiber art, sometimes you want to direct your eye to go into something that's other than stripes. So today I'm going to share with you some tips on some really simple things that you can do as you're freeform weaving that's going to maybe break up that kind of stripey thing a little bit. Anyway, so I want to say hi to Epiphany London and Reggie and Kathy. I'm so glad you guys are here. Anyway, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments in the live chat, and I'm going to circle back. I usually circle back around and catch the questions, but as I'm recording and showing you guys stuff, I might not see the questions right off the bat, but I do circle back. Anyway, all right, so I showed you what I mean by stripes, and like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, you know, that you've got stripes, and one of the things that I think helps is if you kind of vary the size of the sections. You can see here, and this actually is a really thin yarn. That's one thing. I have you can see the warp. I mean, it goes this way, right? I was weaving in this direction. So what you're seeing in this area is actually warp because I wove with a super thin yarn. So that kind of breaks up that stripe thing a little bit. So that's one thing you can do. But otherwise, I mean, another thing that I like to do is vary the size of the sections. I mean, if everything, you know, my attention span with weaving with some yarns, I mean with most yarns, tend to be like a certain depth. So I just break it up. I might, you know, just vary the size a little bit, and that kind of helps a little bit. I mean, it still looks kind of stripes, but I think it helps it a little bit. All right, so one of my favorite things I like to do to break up that stripey thing is I like to weave with some locks, and mostly like some hand spun yarn that has some texture to it. And what that does is as I put that hand spun yarn in there, it's going to add, like, this is adding a focal point right here. You know, now granted, I divided this section and I have, you know, I wove a little bit of this section with a different color, but let's say that this was my weaving here. You see just a pop of texture, boom, and there that kind of breaks up that stripe a little bit. I mean, I did the same thing here with some ribbon. I mean, the ribbon's not going, let me see if I can even that up. The ribbon's not going the full width. So what you're kind of getting is, you know, a little bit, it kind of breaks it up. Even though it is still a horizontal line, you're creating a little bit of a vertical here with the space, with the negative space in that. All right. So yeah, let me show you another way that I like to do those short pieces. Here we go. This is a good example. Right here, I used some dreads. You see, I put a contrasting thick, chunky dread, 2 dreads actually, you can see. 2 dreads in there. And that kind of breaks up that line, and it adds a little bit of a, you know, your eyes kind of going a little at an angle. Let's see, I think on this piece, was it this piece? No, I think it was this piece. No. It was this piece. All right, so like here I did a similar thing with the dreads, and I did and it's a little more subtle because the colors are the same, but, and I added let them be dangly, and that kind of breaks up, that adds some texture. And here I did some floats where I took the yarn, and put it across the warp, and that adds a little bit of an accent. Even though it is still a horizontal line, it kind of drapes a little bit, and that breaks up that horizontal a good bit. All right, so yes, the dreads are really fun. I mean, you can get, let me show you another piece. This piece, and even though this is, I did a stack of thick dreads here, but that adds, even though it's going horizontally, because it's a stack, it's adding another vertical line in there. All right, so I do have a dreads class, and I'll put a link in the show notes, and I show you how to you can make thick dreads. I'll show you, there's 3 different ways you can make dreads. So those are really fun to add. Here's another place where I added some texture, and even though this yarn here, this really textural lock yarn, goes all the way across, because it's so textural, it's kind of breaking up that stripe thing, because all this lock stuff is kind of dangling down across the rest of it. So you can see where that'll help that. Let's see. Oh, another way I like to do it is I have this ball fringe that I have this upholstery stuff, and when I do it, I don't like to necessarily do it all the way across. I just take one little piece and kind of put it right there in the middle. Let's see. I know I have another scarf where I do that. Oh, let's see. I think it's down here. Oh, this one. Yeah. You see here, I'm doing that same thing with this one. And this one, doing 3 rows, it adds another vertical, because your eyes go on, even though it's 3 shorter stripes, but you're getting this negative space adds another vertical line. So using some accents, that's a good way to kind of break it up. All right. The next thing I like to do is to outright add embellishments. And I have a whole embellishments class where I show you different ways, and that's what the whole class is about, is actually adding some composition to your pieces. Okay, I got all I have a stack of the, here we go. This, you see here, I took this piece and I added these cards here, and this adds a vertical element here, as well as I put some little worry people on here, and so it draws your eye, with a little composition down the piece. So in that embellishments class, I go into like some crazy ideas for kind of pimping out your piece. There's another one. This. Yeah, here I added, even if it's just a little embellishment, like here I broke it up with some buttons. I mean, that's a good way to just sewing some stuff on that's going to kind of break up that line. All right, so yeah, the embellishments class, again, I'll put a link down in the comments, kind of tells you a little bit about adding stuff after you take it off the loom. But at the same time, in that class, I also go through some art theories, so you kind of get some ideas on composition and stuff like that. All right, I'm going to check and see if there's any questions. Oh, hey, TJ, Sherry, Maggie, 70 Acre Studio. Who else? All right, let me see if there's any questions. I have my first weaving project on my new flip loom. Oh, congratulations on your new flip loom. That's exciting. Yeah, the flip looms are really cool. Ashcan of Beaufort County here. North Carolina Weavers, yes. Love the North Carolina Weavers for sure. Pom-pom trim, I think of Cheek and Chong. I know, right? Didn't they have that on the inside of their car? I don't know. I guess maybe I'm showing my age too. a pile of sari strips from eBay. I can't wait to start using. Yeah, the sari strips are really cool. I love using them in weaving, and I know that I have. Oh, like right here. Look at this. And that's another thing. Look at this. I mean, hanging these sari strips to where they dangle off the edge. That's going to draw your eye downward as well. And here's some other things that I have going on here. There's some embroidery and some other techniques that I go through in that Beyond the Basics class, but I also will be releasing some smaller classes that focus just on those techniques. All right, so the other thing I wanted to talk about is that you can do like tapestry type techniques. And this is let me show you here. I did a little section in this scarf where I did just some basic tapestry techniques, where you weave just little shapes. And when you weave the little shapes, you're not going to necessarily do them with, you're not necessarily going to do them with, beating it with your reed. You're going to use a comb for that. And that's a class that's coming up, but I kind of go over it a little bit in that Beyond the Basics class. And if you're in the collective group, I tell you, the person who masters that tapestry technique is Allison. She makes those beautiful coats. Everything that she does is kind of a tapestry technique that she does on a rigid head of loom, and it's just absolutely beautiful. But there's so much movement in her fabric. I mean, she's not doing stripes. She's doing all these little shapes and all these wonderful undulating designs. And that's the thing. It's because the movement of the designs of the fabric really play against the movement of the way that she sews her coats. She sews her coats with a little bit of swing in them, so it really shows off that movement really well. All right, so tapestry techniques is another way that you can do that. And there's a tapestry technique that's called clasp wefts. And this is an example of it here. And it makes this kind of, it kind of divides the fabric in half, with this kind of staticky looking side. The staticky looking design. See, and I have it here where I'm doing it where it's just in the middle, and I have it, on the edges. But you don't have to necessarily do it in a staticky design. Clasp wefts is also a really good way to... Am I rolling on this? Oh, okay. Is a really good way to control shapes. So anyway, and that class, the clasp wefts class, is the one that's coming up next, and that's gonna release on Friday, or the registration's gonna go live on Friday, and that's gonna be coming in 2 weeks, the very first week of August. So yeah, and it's a quick class because it's a really easy technique, but you know me, I'm going to show you a couple of ways to do it, and then I'm going to also give you some idea starters to where you can take that technique and just run with it, because it opens up a bunch of possibilities. It's a simple technique, but there's a bunch of things that you can do with that. All right, so like I said, compositionally, as far as techniques that'll kind of break up just the stripes of weaving with a yarn and then switching to another yarn, I go over a lot of that in that Beyond the Basics class that's opened back up for registration right now, and that's going to close at the end of this month on the 31st. But since my birthday is next week, I opened up registration for my birthday month. And when you sign up for that, you get access to the other classes that I'm releasing that is in the Beyond the Basics series. Because basically what I'm doing is taking the lessons from that big class and turning each lesson into its own class. And I've already done 3, the art yarn warps, the dreads, and embellishments. And embellishments class is also another good one, because basically it talks outright about composition and about ways that you can really plan out your fiber art as artwork, and applying composition and turning your weaving into artwork using embellishments. All right, I'm going to circle back and look at the... Boy, you guys are so chatty today. I love it when you're chatty. The Sorry Silk from Amazon. Because you're the video late. Nancy, you're not late. Well, I guess maybe you are late because I'm winding it down and taking questions. but the live cast will go back on. Oh, and did I show you this? This is, I don't know if I mentioned this entire wrap. You see, let me show you this. You might have seen this on my website or on my Facebook page, because I've posted or even Instagram, because I've posted a lot of pictures. But all of this right here, these are all the techniques that I show you in that Beyond the Basics class. So this is, when you sign up, this is outright what you're going to learn right off the bat. And then what's going to happen is I'm taking each of the techniques that you see here, and they're turning into a full class where I'm expanding a little bit about the techniques. And then, you know me, I'm going to kind of give you idea starters to see how you can take these techniques and just run with them. All right. Is the basics fee? In the basics fee? In the basics fee. What do you mean? Say fee will be the last weft fee class. Yes, the class. Yes, Sherry, the clasp weft. That's so hard to say, right? The clasp weft class is included if you sign up for, and I know that you signed up for the Beyond the Basics class. So what happens is when you look at the lessons in the Beyond the Basics class, at the very, very bottom, they have a section that says free access. And that gives you, and as I add the classes, that's where the free access will go. But that's not going to be released. I don't usually add to that section until that class goes live. So the first week of August, but you will get an email notice when that happens. So yeah, you'll get access to that. Yay, happy birthday. Thank you. Yours is on the 29th. Yay, I love July babies. July Leo babies. I'm the first day of Leo. I call myself a cancerous Leo because I'm kind of on the cusp. Me too. Thanks. I came in late too, Adriana. Hey, Adriana, I'm glad you could join us. Nikki. Hey, Nikki. I love that piece so much. It's amazing. This piece? Oh, yeah.